The Hi-TEC India press conference where Rana Kapoor, key speaker, is addressing the media.
Recent steps, last 2 years, taken by the government to create more fiscal rectitude, as also reflected in the recently announced budget, with hardwired objectives, to get to 3% by 2019, to me, augurs well. I think the fact that we have achieved inflation goals established by the previous governor, and the new governor has, further improvised on that goal to be around 4% of inflation, leads me to believe that we are heading towards a longer period of inflation stability. So combination of both, also partly reflected in a current account deficit around 1 to 1.1%, overall balance of payments hovering around 370 billion. All these are very important domestic and exogenous pointers towards a fairly stable macroeconomic situation. I think the fact that the government, even in this budget on the anvil of very critical midway elections, has stayed away from unaffordable populism, to me is also a very important message in this budget. And I think sometimes, these seem very easy to do, but the fact 2.5 years in a row, there are no unnecessary populist schemes is also, in a way, a very, very good step in terms of ensuring that these winds of change are hardwired in the system. GST, everybody's familiar, but I think the architecture around the insolvency and the bankruptcy code in itself is going to be a very critical step in the remedial actions which are warranted in the overhang of the overall, let us say, debt precipitation that has been very sticky, very protracted in our economy. To me, this is also a very important measure. And, there are several schemes in bits and pieces. They're beginning to gather momentum, whether it's the smart cities. You can see even Maharashtra is advocating 8 to 10 schemes, has launched almost 8 to 9 smart city, at least has qualified for 8 to 9, smart cities. That, plus the Make in India, Startup India, Digital India, all of these are somewhere getting into first gear. They're no longer parked somewhere. They are now getting off into momentum. First gear, second gear. And to me, this is a very, very important sign. The fact that we have had extraordinary development with its resultant transient shock of demonetization. As a banker for almost 37 years, I can judgmentally suggest that this is going to be very temporary. It will re-platform, refresh, and recondition the economy despite the pains that people underwent for a period of approximately 50 days. It's already correcting. I think the data points which have surfaced for January somewhat reflect whether it's car sales, as I mentioned briefly, or PMI, or even the tax collections which are beginning to pick up. So as a whole, I would like to believe that the tailwinds in the economy today exceed the headwinds. For a very long time, we've all been facing global and headwinds coming in from the north of India, but today I like to believe that in aggregate, the tailwinds exceed the headwinds.
There you have it at the Hi-TEC conference, some big voices there. That's Rana Kapoor speaking and giving us some details on the overall impact of demonetization that will be very short-lived, and talking about how inflation reflects a period of stability.